Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, all 6 episodes of the first season. This series definitely caught me by surprise, filling in major arcs of the backstories of Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku, Yaddle, so many characters. And by the way, Count Dooku is kind of Ahsoka's great-great-grandmaster. Like Dooku taught Qui-gon, Qui-gon taught Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan taught Anakin, Anakin taught Ahsoka. And then, well, I guess to extend that forward, Ahsoka kind of taught Luke, it was implied, and Luke definitely taught Grogu, and Grogu teaches us all how to love. But for real though, this series ties in with Clone Wars and Phantom Menace, the upcoming Ahsoka series, even answering some questions about Grogu during Order 66. So let's break down all the Star Wars Easter eggs that you might have missed. Starting with episode 1, Life and Death, a title that also underscores the duality at the core of the series, the birth at the bottom of that mentorship chain, Ahsoka Tano, and the death at the paternal top of it, Dooku, when his relationship with the Force completely severs. Now the fanfare at the start of every episode includes red and blue lightsabers reflecting off metallic faces. We see Grievous, Bucket from Resistance, Chopper, Crosshair from Bad Batch, a commando battle droid, an Imperial combat driver, then Wrecker from Bad Batch, then the helmet of Bo-Katan, and then Hunter from Bad Batch. And we open with the birth of Ahsoka Tano on the planet Chili in 36 BBY. That's Ahsoka's reported birth date based on the Clone Wars timeline. Prior to this, the earliest we had seen Ahsoka was at the age of 3 in flashbacks with Plo Koon, the Jedi Master who recruits Ahsoka to the Jedi Order. Baby Ahsoka cries off screen while her father, Nak-Il, calls to the others in the Togruta language of Togruti.
Yakamiso! Yakamiso! Ay, she's here!
Yeah, Yakami Soul in context probably means she's born or it's a girl, but it sounds like they worked in the term soul, which in Spanish and other Latin-based languages translates to sun. So maybe the Togruti language may equate childbirth with a sunrise. He bows to the village elder, Gantika, who compared to the others has this face with far more texture and definition. She looks like the brushstrokes of a painting. Gantika also has adorned her clothes with animal bones, suggesting she's an experienced hunter who has taken many children on ceremonial hunts over the years. Baby Ahsoka only has 4 facial markings at first. Togruta's facial markings change as they age, like Ahsoka in Clone Wars changes over the years when we see her in Rebels, and her markings were different at age 3 when she met Plo Koon. But a year later, a bird lands on their roof. We see these blue birds later in the forest, but it reminds me of the Morai bird, who later in Ahsoka's life will accompany her, representing the spirit of the daughter. These Togrutas use droids and blasters. Nak-Il here uses one with an astromech head, as this race was able to resist joining the Republic for centuries. Gantika feeds a few raccoon-looking dogs with faces resembling those of loth cats. She anoints Ahsoka and Pavti with paint for luck on their hunt. Pavti and Ahsoka hunt Kaibucks. These are the herd animals originally from Kashyyyk and Legends continuity, the old Cartoon Network Star Wars Clone Wars series, but reintroduced in canon in the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. Ahsoka takes in a squirrel and all the fauna of the forest, showing a bit of animal kinship that Jedi are increasingly shown to have, from Ezra Bridger taming the Furnock to Grogu taming the Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett. Pavti gives Ahsoka 2 key lessons about life and death.
Look, Ahsoka. Everywhere there is life. Value it. Honor it. You must face death, Ahsoka. Do not fear it.
Yes, value life, face death. And to demonstrate that, Pavti wears Ahsoka not as a backpack, but as a Bjorn on her chest, so that the baby is right up in there when the Kaibuck is stabbed. But Pavti senses a saber-tooth stalking them, and her nostril flares just a bit, showing how these Togrutas have their own natural fight-or-flight instincts. While Pavti had told Ahsoka that she would carry her home, it's actually the saber-tooth who carries Ahsoka home, giving the Togrutans a legend that they would all tell each other over the years and marking Ahsoka as a special one.
Jedi. Ahsoka is Jedi.
This whole idea of a lost kid revealed to be beyond their years is a classic universal archetypal tale. In the New Testament, young Jesus is left at the temple and Mary and Joseph return to find him schooling the scholars. In the Old Testament, a lion attacks David, but David slays that lion with the might of God. And while the rest of this season is darker and more cynical in its depiction of the Star Wars society, I love that we start here to be reminded of the natural purity of the Force. Episode 2, Justice, opens with the Jedi T6 shuttle piloted by a young Dooku, voiced by Corey Burton, who also voiced Cad Bane in Zero the Hutt, and young Qui-Gon Jinn, designed to look like a younger Liam Neeson, and absolute snack. He's voiced by Mikhail Richardson, Liam Neeson's real-life son. While it's not hard to recognize these characters, note that they are never actually named until the final exchange of the episode.
You're a much wiser man than I, Qui-Gon Jinn. thanks to your teachings.
And Dooku's name is never even said in the episode. For the uninitiated, this story does work as a universal tale of a Jedi Master tempted by darkness. If you didn't know who this character was, you'd just be like, oh, a Jedi who I might get along with. Oh wait, he's a horrible villain? He's really not that horrible. I mean, compared to all the other dirtbags in this story. They land in this burnt out clearing watched over by thin birds that look like variants of the Steelpeckers from Force Awakens and Andor. A loader droid struggles with one last stack for that tow cart, in contrast with the droid in episode 5 who was in its prime, showing how this land has been truly scoured for the last of its resources. And there's such great animation detail in this rotting town, mud puddles, flies everywhere, that poor dog with the ribs showing. The silhouettes in the windows include an Arcona and a Rodian, and of course the woman with that dog will later be the one who, starving for food, brings the senator to them. The bar tanks are like the ones in the Mos Eisley Cantina, which the Lucasfilm team would later repurpose as the heads of the IG assassin droids. The elder woman is voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who voices Harrison Dula in Rebels.
Allow me to make my intentions clear.
Jedi.
Dooku opens his cape in a flourish, similar to Christopher Lee's gestures in Attack of the Clones, and his lightsaber, though blue-bladed, we'll later see, has the same curved hilt as his red saber later will, and Qui-Gon's lightsaber is the same green one that he wields in Phantom Menace. Based on Qui-Gon's age, though, this is likely the earliest we have seen in Star Wars canon on screen, because this would be a few decades before Phantom Menace. And I like how this episode shows that, with the townspeople's clothes looking like old-world European. I don't think we've really seen this wardrobe design in Star Wars before. Senator Dagonet's son is voiced by Josh Keaton, who voiced Skinny Steve in Marvel's What If. He's guarded by Teuton, a binary lifter droid, and this son, like Clark Griswold's boss's wife in Christmas Vacation, sympathizes with the kidnappers. These kidnappers looking hungry enough to actually want a subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club. Senator Dagonet is voiced by Mark Rolston, longtime actor from Shawshank Redemption and Aliens, actually another Shawshank actor. Longtime voice actor Clancy Brown voices the sixth brother in the final episode. The senator has with him an RA-7 protocol droid, and he and his soldiers dress in blue and gold finery, kind of looking like those goofy Swiss Guard outfits. The senator says,
You serve the Senate.
No. We serve the people of this republic.
So Dooku, as a Jedi, came from a wealthy family, and he's actually retained a relationship with a sister, which, Jedi are not supposed to do. So he's always been more of a rule breaker, an idealist following his own code. He ignites his lightsaber down and to the side, and as he repels the blast, he once again uses the wide flourish as a Form 2 lightsaber combat. This is the one more akin to fencing. The light on Dooku's face is really well done this episode, from the table light in the tavern, and now with the lightsaber glow, it moves from one side of his face to the other, reflecting his shifting resolve as he decides to force choke the senator. And Kevin Kiner's music and the sound design is just so excellent here and throughout the series.
Corruption like yours must be eradicated.
No! Stop!
Master, it's over.
What we thought was a gusting wind was actually the sound of the dark side of the Force coursing through Dooku, finally silenced when he releases his grip. They leave behind some forces to help the villagers, and one of those soldiers pets the rib dog. Aww. Dooku tells Qui-Gon that he's a much wiser man than he is, which is something Qui-Gon will later tell his apprentice in Phantom Menace.
You've been a good apprentice, Obi-Wan. And you're a much wiser man than I am.
Episode 3, Choices, follows Dooku and Mace Windu, T.C. Carson returning to voice the role from Clone Wars. They're headed to Raxus Secundus to retrieve the body of Jedi Master Katri. The screen shows that she's a Moralian race like Luminar and Unduli, and the Orbesh reads Master Katri. Now, Raxus Secundus showed up in Clone Wars and Bad Batch. During the Clone Wars, this will join the Separatists, and we actually see that anti-Republic sentiment here. They're greeted by Hanel, who has a scar across his lips and later snarls,
You and all of the Senate puppets will see a reckoning!
This is voice actor Andrew Kishino, who voices Saw Gerrera in Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Saw also shows up in Bad Batch and Rebels with a scar across his face. As they chat with Senator Larrick, Hanel and Samaj stand behind them, glowering at Larrick to make sure he plays along. Hanel even turns his head just a little bit when Dooku suggests wanting to see where Katri died. Dooku and Windu sense something is off, and Windu wants to take it back to the council, but Dooku's like, we're gonna investigate this alone. And they notice the burn marks and lightsaber slashes on the trees, but nothing on the ships. This leads to a shootout with the guards and some Raxus battle droids. Samaj explains how Larrick, like the Senator Dagonet, was corruptly putting his own personal interests ahead of his people. Each of these episodes really shows how Dooku adopts separatist philosophy.
Jedi are lapdogs of the Senate. Their bidding always comes first. It's evident throughout the galaxy. Jedi claim peace, but mostly keep law and order for the rich and powerful.
Later in this episode, Dooku tells Samaj that his ideology has points and to not lose heart, and he asks Windu,
Do you think the Jedi will truly keep peace
if they continue to take everything the Senate says as law.
Back on Coruscant, they bury Katri. The casket lowers into the floor and then shoots up in a beam of light like a lightsaber. I'm guessing it's being incinerated and just releases this blinding light as a result of the fire. We see Yoda, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Jocasta Nu outside later, Saesee Tiin, and Tera Sinube, the mentor Jedi, whose corpse tragically ends up in the Fortress Inquisitorius in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Dooku learns Windu is being offered Katri's seat on the High Council and asks if he knew before they went to Raxus. We see how his ego is stung as his ambitions are being slighted. On to episode 4, The Sith Lord. Dooku's beard is now a bit grayer because this is several years later. He slips into the back room of the Jedi Temple archives and accesses the file using Sifo Dyas's access code to erase the listing for Kamino. This fills in what Obi-Wan investigates in Attack of the Clones, Kamino being erased from the archive star maps. Sifo Dyas was a friend of Dooku's who had a premonition of a great war and secretly commissions a clone army that Darth Sidious will later seize control of by having Dooku use the pikes to kill off Sifo Dyas. Dooku greets Jocasta Nu, who spoke of Dooku in a deleted scene from Attack of the Clones. Here she mentions Qui-Gon's running with the Sith on Tatooine, placing this episode in the middle of Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan bring Anakin to the Jedi Temple. Qui-Gon chats with Yaddle, who at this point was part of the Jedi High Council, but was not present at the end of Phantom Menace at Qui-Gon's funeral on Naboo. They say,
I guess word travels fast.
Well, your statements to the council were rather surprising.
Qui-Gon is now voiced by Liam Neeson himself, who also cameoed in the final scene of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would not be surprised if Lucasfilm's like, hey, while you're here in the green screen, could you come over here in the audio booth and record some lines? Thanks. Meanwhile, Yaddle is voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard, who has directed a lot of better episodes of The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. This is the first time we've heard Yaddle speak, and she does not invert her syntax the way Yoda does, showing that his speech isn't really a product of his race, but just rather unique to him. Dooku warns Qui-Gon about the Sith Lord, saying that he won't be there to protect him, and indeed, Maul will be the end of Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon compliments Obi-Wan, and Dooku says that he'd like to meet Obi-Wan someday, and indeed they will meet in Attack of the Clones, and how. Now this interaction here is at sunset, which in Phantom Menace is when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan chat on the terrace, and the High Council, including Yaddle, tests Anakin by himself. So Qui-Gon must be on his way up to chat with Obi-Wan, and Yaddle is on her way to test Anakin. It's fun to think that the day Obi-Wan brought Anakin into the temple is the day that Dooku erased Kamino from the archives. Dooku says,
They grow up so fast, our students.
Yes, it is the way of things.
Yes, this parallels Yoda's amazing line to Luke in The Last Jedi.
We are what they grow beyond.
Later, after the final battle of Phantom Menace, Dooku mourns Qui-Gon at the Great Force Tree in the Jedi Temple courtyard. This location has shown up in Clone Wars. The tree's leaves are dying, symbolizing all these characters being in the twilight of the Jedi's dominance. And this tree is a very, very big deal. Palpatine destroys most of the Jedi relics when he takes over the temple, but he keeps 2 twigs of this tree. The story of Shattered Empire explores how Luke Skywalker recovers these and keeps one of them, but he gives the other to Lieutenant Shara Bey and her husband, Kes Dameron. They plant it outside of their home on Yavin 4, and their son is Poe Dameron, who plays on that Force tree as a kid and nearly burns it down. Now, this did lead to some theories in the sequel trilogy era that Poe might be Force sensitive and that's why he's such a good pilot. It's probably not the case, but the Force might have guided him to meet the right people, and I like to think the tree might have had something to do with it. Yaddle says,
The council is leaving for Naboo. The funeral is to be held there.
And since she follows Dooku, she never makes it to the funeral, explaining why she wasn't there for the funeral in Phantom Menace. They both head out to the industrial regions of Coruscant, where Dooku met with Sidious in Attack of the Clones, and here Dooku and Sidious debate.
You've gone too far.
I don't know what you mean.
Yep, that is Ian McDiarmid coming back to voice Sidious here. And in the background, we hear this opera soprano recalling the opera house where Palpatine told Anakin the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. We learned that Dooku wanted Qui-Gon as a potential ally, referring to Qui-Gon's fixation on the Living Force, his defiance of the High Council. Dooku really thought he could flip Qui-Gon, which is super interesting. But Sidious saw Qui-Gon as only a potential ally to Dooku, showing how Sidious is grounded in the Sith rule of 2. He never trusts his apprentice to take on another apprentice because then those two could gang up on him and replace him. Dooku's offended by this.
You question my loyalty?
Always.
Yes, it is a Sith's nature to always be distrustful of his apprentice. Yaddle confronts them and tries to turn Dooku against Sidious.
I'm afraid.
I know you are.
I'm afraid it is too late.
And the saber glow again shifts from one side of Dooku's face to the other. This moment also parallels Han Solo and BAM! In Force Awakens.
It's too late. No, it's not. Leave here with me. Come home. I miss you.
I'm being torn apart. I want to be free of this pain. I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
just when you think they're gonna come back to the light, you realize the true struggle they're having is with stifling the last of the goodness inside of them. Their duel mirrors Yoda and Dooku's duel in Attack of the Clones. Yaddle using similar flips and leaps. Dooku closes the gate on her, which lowers like the teeth of a gaping mouth. Sidious's mouth smiling at her, devouring all the Jedi. Sidious, thinking he's triumphant, says,
"Rise, my friend."
Just like Sidious will say to Anakin after Anakin proves his loyalty by turning on a Jedi, in that case Mace Windu.
"Rise."
But Yaddle's the one who rises. She rises the gate, and we hear John Williams' Force theme. And remember, before, she was able to survive by squeezing into the gap between the teeth, just giving her a little bit more room to work with. And when light floods into the room, Palpatine covers his face, because just in case Yaddle's able to survive this or jump away to safety, he had just been closer to the light and exposed his full face, and he does not want her to see his identity and connect that Palpatine and Sidious are the same person. And then the final tragic exchange.
I want only to bring peace and order to the galaxy.
Already so many have suffered for what you call order.
Then let me give you peace, Master Yaddle.
Yeah, you can really hear that guttural bass in Corey Burton's voice on the word peace, channeling the cold-bloodedness that we hear in Cad Bane. And yes, Yaddle's death here does remove her from possibility as a possible rescuer of Grogu from the Jedi Temple during Order 66. She may have known his existence, but she was not the one who got him out of the temple. On to episode 5, Practice Makes Perfect. Anakin watches Ahsoka train in the Jedi Temple with some remote droids. Yoda is there, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Obi-Wan, and then over on the other side, Diva B'Elaba and her apprentice Caleb Doom. Now, Ahsoka is being trained by Tara Sinube, whom Ahsoka meets in the Clone Wars Season 2 episode Lightsaber Lost. I think this is taking place after that, maybe a year and a half into the war, because notice Ahsoka's outfit is a mix between her tube top from the Clone Wars movie through the end of Season 2. She doesn't have the tube top here, but she still has her white leggings from that era. So she's kind of in between the costume redesign, and that's why she's only using one lightsaber still here. However, Obi-Wan's hair is back to being long as it was during the Attack of the Clones movie, even though it should be shorter from this era of the Clone Wars animated series. Caleb marvels at Ahsoka's moves, even though these two characters seem to meet for the first time in Rebels, but who knows, this kid went through a lot of trauma, probably saw like dozens of skilled Jedi at the temple. But Anakin thinks his test is a bunch of bullshit, so he takes her to a real test with Captain Rex, having grown clone troopers stun a teenager over and over, but hey, it ends up helping her in Order 66, so I guess abusive teaching is worth it.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference!
Captain Rex and the other clone troopers, including Jesse, use the blue blast stun setting that we saw used on Leia in A New Hope. I like how Ahsoka's confidence actually helps her at first. In the first round, she senses the first shooter and repels several blasts until getting tagged eventually on the 5th one. But round after round, she actually gets worse at it. The second time, they get her in 3 blasts, then 2 the next time, and her eyelids hang lower and lower. The next time, it's just 2 quick blasts, and then the editing makes it seem like it's 1 after that. But then she gets this pep talk from Anakin.
I want it to be difficult. This is about life and death.
Ah, Life and Death, the title of episode 1, returning Ahsoka to her original lessons of natural balance. And notice how this round she crushes it. So we jump ahead several years to a different base well into the Clone Wars. Ahsoka's white leggings are gone, she's now just wearing the full redesign outfit from Season 3 onward, and she now has her second lightsaber that she started using at that point. The 5 of Verse have all now painted their armor blue. It seems like Ahsoka has scheduled these sessions on her own now. She successfully repels and stuns, she does a mid-air roll just as she did with the training remote droids earlier, showing she is just as strong against clone troopers as she is against battle droids. So we end this episode in this fascinating place on the same ship in the final episode of Clone Wars. This tiny little moment after Ahsoka has removed Rex's chip, and this is when Rex was pretending to still be under Order 66 brainwash, so he could escort Ahsoka as a prisoner in front of the other clone troopers before they turn on them and escape. And in this little moment, Rex says,
Let's hope all that training pays off.
Yeah, we did not hear this in the Clone Wars finale episode, but there was enough time for them to say it. And I love how Dave Filoni keeps doing this, keeps looping back and back and back on the events of Order 66 to just fit in these little grace notes for each of these characters. And in this case, this episode suggests that the skills Ahsoka used to escape Order 66 were initially inspired by Anakin, who is now, ironically, the tip of the Order 66 spear. But this is truly a skill continued and mastered without Anakin's guidance. Just Ahsoka and Rex working together. Sessions continued by her own individual discipline. And then on to the final episode, episode, episode 6, Resolve. We see Padme's funeral on Naboo, which was shown during the epilogue of Revenge of the Sith. In the crowd, we see Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, and Bail sees across the way Ahsoka. Ahsoka, what are you thinking? Why are you showing up here? I get it, you wanted more Padme, but it was really stupid to go here. Now, this is actually an alteration from Ahsoka's timeline in the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnstone, which doesn't really have Bail and Ahsoka meeting each other until much later. But Dave Filoni said that he based this episode on the same general outline that he put together for the Ahsoka novel. In his mind, they're roughly the same story, even if some of the details are different. I guess I agree, this is just a condensed version of the novel. That novel is really good. I would have enjoyed having a bit more time living in that era of Ahsoka's life rather than just like 14 minutes. Bail tells Ahsoka,
"There's nothing you could have done for either of them."
He's referring to both Padme and Anakin. Anakin, whom Ahsoka at this point assumes died in Order 66. It's not until Rebels she realized that Anakin and Vader are the same person. Bail leaves Ahsoka a comlink and gives Ahsoka some doublespeak to contact him if she ever needs anything. And a big mistake to say this to the clone troopers because now, they're gonna hit him up for like concert tickets and shit. Ahsoka and Rex leave in a BTL S3 Y-Wing starfighter, the precursor to the Y-Wing in the later era. We catch up with Ahsoka on a farm planet, which is not specifically Rada, but it seems to be like roughly based on it. She goes by the name Ashla as she does in the novel. Ashla is the name of a lot of things in Star Wars. It's the name of a moon of Tython. Ashla is also a name given to the light side of the Force, but she might have actually chosen it because there was another Togruta girl in the Jedi Temple named Ashla during the time of Attack of the Clones. The farmers worry about not being able to keep up with Imperial quotas, but this jerk kid praises Palpatine.
Emperor Palpatine brought peace.
It's a lot like the senators and Andor who compliment Palpatine for protecting them and saying what he means. Ahsoka's Force sensitivity is exposed, and so when she returns to the village, she finds the Inquisitor, the sixth brother, waiting for them, having torched the place. The sixth brother! I mentioned this guy a few times in my Obi-Wan Kenobi breakdowns. He's the one who finds Ahsoka in the novel, and here he looks incredible. He's got this awesome mask. He is hooded. He's got a cloak with the Imperial crest on it. Could we have had at least one of the Inquisitors in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series look like this? Now, the kyber crystals of his twin blades are going to be the kyber crystals that Ahsoka turns into her twin white blades in Rebels and in Mandalorian. Ahsoka saves the kid not by moving the sixth brother, but by throwing the kid out of the way. God, I imagine she took some satisfaction tossing him aside. And like great samurai films, this duel is short but perfect. Just 3 to 4 swings, then Ahsoka grabs the hilt, kicks the sixth brother, and finishes him off. There's way more buildup than actual dueling, and it's far more effective that way, kind of like that final short duel in Kill Bill Volume 1. But really, this reminds me of when Maul finds Obi-Wan on Tatooine in Rebels. Their final duel. Remember how short that was? Just a few swift moves and the fight is over. And that's all you really need. In fact, that's how long it would be for Ahsoka here. This is the same Ahsoka who already held her own against freaking Maul on Mandalore in the Clone Wars final season. Inquisitors, remember, are trained by Vader, and not the best of Vader. They're trained by Vader's abuse, whereas Ahsoka was trained by the best of Anakin. All of Anakin's empathy, and I guess a bit of Anakin's abuse.
Again.
Again, I love this series so much. I can't believe how much lore and deeper meaning they're able to pack into all of this. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.